Today on the Three Gorillas podcast, Joe and Greg discuss the Bettis case. We're talking an unsolved murder. You have found the Three Gorillas podcast. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to the Three Gorillas podcast. My name is Greg Lawson, and always I'm here with Joe Escribano, and Mark Sawa is out on assignment. What's going on, Joe?
It is great to be here. Great to be here, Greg, especially on this one right here. But we'll jump right into it here in a little bit. Mark, like usual, is running the roads right now. But that's okay, brother. We got this ball, and this ball is a good one because I was there.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing is man, so I got hired in 1985, went to work for the sheriff's office in Travis County in 1986. And one of the cases that was still in the backs of everybody's mind was one Ruth Elizabeth Bettis. And when I found out that you were one of the guys that were on scene on that I just found out this, a couple of weeks ago. And I'm really interested to have this conversation with you because we haven't talked about this, but I remember what the story was. But the interesting thing is when you look at Travis County from the 1980s, that's not the only cold case in Travis County, man. There are a bunch of them.
Yes, there are.
Juanita Velasquez. She was found deceased in 1980 on the side of Pflugerville East Road. And that case has never been solved. There was a guy named Daniel Fogg. He was from Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was staying out at a place called Marbridge Farms. He had a mentality of about a 7-year-old child, but he was 24 years old and he went out for pizza and water and no one ever saw this guy ever again. Marie Shirley Walker was found near Highway 290, about a mile and a half or so from County Line Road in Travis County. She was 27 years old. Francisco Pancho Cordova, 1980. He was found in Travis County. And his last address was over on Garden Street in Austin. And then Ruth Elizabeth Bettis pops up. That's 1982. She was found in a pasture near Spreekle Cutoff Road off of Dessau Road in Travis County. She's a 19-year-old college student and part-time dancer or worker at Sugar's Gentlemen's Club. In 1984, Richard Lester King. 1985, a body of a Hispanic male was found on Old Highway 20. 1985, Suzanne Hawkins. She was found near Maha Loop Road and Von Quintus Road in southeast Travis County. She was 30-year-old and she was attending UT at the time. She had been missing for a couple of months at that point. 1986, Ernest Ramirez. 1987, Eugene Daniel Hayes, 36-year-old guy, mechanical engineer, worked in San Antonio. 1989, Daniel Lee Spring, found deceased off of Big Sandy and Lime Creek Road out in western Travis County. Joseph Galvan from Manor, Texas. He was found out there. Man, and that's just in the 1980s. These are cases that are still open, apparently, and unsolved that's happened in Travis County. But the one, like I said, that's always kind of been in the back of my mind is this Ruth Elizabeth Bettis. And the reasons in the back of my mind is when I came to work in 1986, that was 4 years prior, but everybody was still talking about it because of the unusual situation, because of the way the girl was found, because of where she was found, and also because of the fact that the number one suspect was a person in law enforcement. Yeah. But there was two of them. Yeah. The number one suspects were persons in law enforcement. So, man, Joe, the reason I wanted to bring this up is I just want you to, I've never really had a good briefing on this. And the fact that that you were there is a perfect time for you to tell us a little bit about this cold case. So please take us from the very beginning. I mean, even before it even happened, whatever you need to do.
The reason why it comes back to mind, because that was like I had joined the sheriff's office in 1981, if you can imagine. And then next thing you know, and it was late 1981. It's not like I joined them like, January of 1981. It was like November, December, something like that. And so I entered what they call, in law enforcement, the FTO program. So, that's, you ride with an FTO, meaning your field training officer. And so let's fast forward. I'm with my training officer, and it's November, Thanksgiving Day, 1982. And I had the North Central, which is considered the Baker. Back then, it was the Baker 14 area, and it's North Central. A lot of it was unincorporated, so was Sprinkle Cutoff right off Deso. And I remember that we got the call, me and my FTO, that they had a deceased person. And when we rolled up there, I vividly remember she was driving, or they said she had been driving a Volkswagen. So the Volkswagen was there, and I remember that. And I remember it was cold. It was really, really bitter cold that morning. And you almost had, I would say there was frost. Not a lot, but there was some, and it was very, very cold. And I remember when we got to the scene, I was new, my FTO was taking the lead, of course. I'm just, tagging along to, hold the the evidence tape, and note everybody coming into the scene, so forth and so on. But what I did notice is that she was undressed from the waist down, and she was facing down. And she was undressed. She still had I remember she had tennis shoes on, or some shoes on with socks. I remember that. And I remember that Volkswagen. And just everything just, and your brain starts to come back on the scene like that. And I remember it was going like, wow, this is just, pretty tough stuff to see, coming on, because you didn't know a lot of anything. And of course, the detectives got there, and then they started their magic. They went ahead and started retrieving. The vehicle was retrieved, the body was retrieved, the ME got there, and everything else. And then they started working it hard and heavy. And years later, I'm going to fast forward. When I became the captain over Central Command, I promoted sergeant, lieutenant, blah blah. That case was always in the back of my mind, because at the time they did not solve it right there, and it was not solved. This case right now is 41 years old, Greg. 41 years old. Now they send DNA to the FBI. They send everything that they had, and of course they came up allegedly with 2 alleged suspects, but then they were ruled out by fingerprints. And they were ruled out by the weapon itself. That's the latest that I read. So they were allegedly ruled out. But again, the DNA, jury's out on that one. She was an exotic dancer. A lot of the homicide detective, good, bad, or indifference, they went to that club quite a bit to try to get information and develop leads, as best I can remember. And then when I went over Central Command 20 years after that, we went ahead and started a cold case unit, and we hit that case again. And they hit it pretty hard, and they were able to interview, I think, one of those law enforcement officers that's deceased now. When I talked to that detective back then, he wasn't convinced that they didn't have some knowledge of it, but they just weren't saying. Opportunity, I'm not going to point the finger at him because I have no proof, but there was a lot of it there. But then again, how homicide cases are. You can have circumstantial evidence in charge, but if you don't have good circumstantial evidence, you're just going to be hanging in the wind.
Was there a lot of law enforcement response on that scene, or was it at that time at the sheriff's office like 3 people?
It was like 3 people. Medical examiner showed up. It wasn't like you had a whole cavalry of people going over there. Back then, we were like, North Central. It was me and my FTO. That was it. And then you had 216 towards the lake, one unit. You had another one in Jonestown. Then you had another one far east in Maynard. That was it. And then you had the Charlie unit south. But it was every district was populated with, if you were lucky, one person. So it was wide open back then. And back then, Sprinkle Cutoff Road, I mean, that was the sticks, dude. I mean, you go to Sprinkle Cutoff and, it was just like, there was absolutely nothing out there other than Pioneer Farms. Where they, by the way, where they filmed in Lonesome Dove.
Yes.
They did, right there.
At the time of that incident, were these law enforcement officers suspects right away, or was that something that developed later?
I think that was something that developed. I'm saying later because it's been a while since I read that case file. It was I can't say. I know that eventually, because they start talking to people, and people, now that you're looking at friends, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're guilty of anything, but you start putting those pieces together, and then you start questioning people on that. And then you start arriving at some conclusion. Who would have had a motive to do that? She was sexually assaulted. That's public information, unfortunately, but it's there. I read it on KVUE. And, she was, there were signs of that, and there were signs of strangulation too. And that was from I just read that a little while ago from the TCSO detective that has the case now.
So this is something that has always kind of struck me odd. You said this case is how old again?
41 years old.
41 years old. And yet law enforcement still won't open it up to the general population to try to figure out what might have happened, because they're too concerned about releasing privileged information that may lead people to make false confessions of things like, in the news, there was no information put out of strangulation, but in the autopsy, her hyoid bone was broken and she had, swelling and that sort of stuff. And they said, okay, these are signs of strangulation, but we're not going to put that out in the public because we don't want anybody using that information to manipulate us or the media or whatever. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, sometimes, believe it or not, people just come forward and admit to crimes that they didn't do, or they will come forward and say, I'm a psychic and I believe this happened. And so you don't want to give certain privileged information out. That's something that happened with the yogurt shop murders. Imagine anyone coming forward and saying, I raped and murdered 4 teenage girls. Well, not one person came forward and said that. 42 people came forward and said that. So when you're looking at a case like the yogurt shop murder, you're looking at an arson, because that's where it started. They saw smoke and they went over there and the building's on fire. So we know we're looking at an arson. We're possibly, based on the arson investigation and the regular investigation, we're possibly looking at a robbery, arson, but also 4 murders. And then after the autopsies, we determined that there was sexual assault. So you're looking at arson, armed robbery or robbery, 1, 2, 3, 4 murder cases, 1, 2, 3, 4 sexual assault cases. And so when you're a detective, you're working all these cases. And then you have maybe one suspect. So there's another case you have to work, because you're not only trying to tie the suspect to the case, you're also trying to exculpate the suspect from being a suspect because of the weirdness that people are. So you look at one and say, wait, that day you were in jail in New York, you couldn't have done it. So 42 people came forward in the yogurt shop case, and those detectives had to investigate where those people were, every one of those people, every one of those days, to determine that they could not have been at the yogurt shop. And that's what people don't really look at and don't really understand how complex this can be. But then the frustration for me is these detectives are going to hoard their cases and go, you can't see my secret stuff because I'm afraid this is going to happen. It's 41 years old, you stupid jackasses. At what point should we just go, we're incompetent to solve this case? There might not just be any evidence or any suspects to connect it. We just couldn't do it. But also there's incompetency because I've read enough cold cases to go, wow, that was an incompetent investigation. At what point should we go, this is public knowledge. This is what happened. This is public knowledge.
Well, I don't want to go on a limb here, but I will. As far as incompetency, I went through the case, and I don't really see that, not from the get-go. Remember, you have to go ahead and look at it through the lens of 1982. You can't look at it, oh, wow, they haven't done, the decipher. They haven't done, and I don't know if you know what the decipher is, but it's a DNA test that they can tell you all kinds of crazy with it. And a bunch of other stuff. So and DNA wasn't back in 82 wasn't, the thing. Okay. And then now you're looking at, you're going to have to go and reconstruct what you do have now, which if there are traces of it, they can now reconstruct a lot of it. And I'm sure, everybody's, really, really would want to go ahead and jump in here and definitely go ahead and try to go ahead and, finish this thing and look at it in that angle, and then go ahead and get it done. But, we've got not only that case, there are other cases that I can remember Travis County has, and other homicide units that are still open. And should the public, you see those programs where these people come in and they're just, civilians, but they're darn good investigators.
And they end up solving the case.
And they end up solving the case when they go ahead and release. And now I can see the frustration. Hey, law enforcement had 41 years with it. I'm seeing that angle of it. Let it go. If somebody can go ahead and get access to that information that is actually doing a legitimate investigation and help, absolutely, Greg, I'm with you. We need to go ahead and, have somebody jump on that. Now, again, with that said, I don't know what the new eyes on it, because remember, this article on KVU came out in 2024. So from 2024 back then to now January, and this was, I think, in May, it's been 6 months. I don't know. It would be interesting to see what they have done and what progress they have made with that, to at least be able to go ahead and close it one way or the other, especially with the DNA that they retrieved. I'm sure that, even if it's old, hopefully it was preserved properly, that they can go ahead and come up with something viable. I really do.
Yeah. And so, for instance, let's say there's a suspect that's still alive, and they do some sort of DNA comparison, and they come back and it's his. And this DNA would have been gleaned or collected from a sexual assault exam. Well, all he would have to say is, yeah, I slept with her a couple of times. Doesn't mean I killed her. And that's it. You would need something else. You would need that DNA on a gun that is at his house, and somehow it gets back into law enforcement's hands, and there's some sort of ballistic analysis done, and it ties to the bullet that killed the person or whatever. But when you have a situation like this, where it's a strangulation, well, there's not a lot of evidence transfer that's going to happen in the strangulation. If you don't have any Ring doorbell cameras and you do this way out in the country, no one else saw it but you. If nothing goes wrong with your vehicle and you get in and out of that area in that amount of time, and you kept your vehicle clean, and if you were transporting a body and you cleaned up your vehicle, or you took your vehicle and burned it and then the next day reported it stolen, to get rid of evidence. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do when you're not being tracked by cell phones and Ring door cameras and intersection cameras and that sort of thing. Because nowadays, They used to send detectives to a lot of different investigative tool classes as far as hands-on forensic physical stuff and interview and interrogation, right?
Yep.
Most of these cases are being made now by cell phones, by data dumps off of people's computers on their cars, by cameras. You get a person in a situation or circumstance to where they can't explain why they were there, especially after they told you they were someplace else. And you conduct that investigation and you show there's nothing over there, but all of his stuff, all of his electronics, all the computer, all the data dump, and all the cameras are where the victim was. So, with the Bettis case, this is one of those ones. Do you remember if there was a person that was last seen with her?
It might have been one of those two suspects. But last seen, you're going to have to really define that one. Remember, where was she working? I mean, you have a lot of last scenes in there.
Right.
So it's not like what you have a case today where everybody has a cell phone. And I want you to think about this. Greg, you have a cell phone. Do you carry it with you most of the time?
Yep.
I know I do. Mine, I can't have one. I have to have two. Because the other one is my bat phone, so I have to carry them with me, and that means my GPS at all times is there. Now, wouldn't it be strange that all of a sudden that you leave both of your phones at home, which can happen? You leave both of your phones at home, and next thing you know, you go wherever and come back. But they still, like you said, if you have a new car, your car computer will give you away too, because it's GPS also. A lot of people don't know that, but it is.
Yeah.
So, and then on top of that, you have flock. There's cameras in every corner. You see what I'm saying? I'm going everywhere with that. So it's just really difficult. Back in 82, you didn't have nothing of the sort. So this, lends a little bit more. As a matter of fact, there were really no cell phones to speak of. It was all Pony Express, and I can say that because I didn't even know what cell phones were non-existent. We used pay phones everywhere we went.
Everywhere.
So yeah, so it's a little more difficult to do it. But is it possible? There's always something with forensics nowadays. That just is. And and I'm sure whoever the powers be have it now, want to go ahead and go move. The sheriff now says that she's wants to make sure that we move forward with it, which is great. You're going to have to whatever evidence you got, it's old, hopefully they preserved it in some form or fashion that they're going to be able to do some magic with it. But I don't know because I have a case that I worked, let me see, how far back was that one, on Oasis Bluff, where we found a gentleman minus his head and his hands. And that one took us a while.
Can I stop you there? Is that the one where the dog found one of the hands and brought it back to his owner in a pillowcase?
I don't know if it was that one.
Okay. Yeah. The body dump on Oasis Bluff. It's the same place. It's where we've got multiple bodies there. One of them, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's worth mentioning. This place, those of you who know Austin, the Austin area, on Bullock Hollow off of 620 and FM 2222, as you're heading out towards Cypress Creek Park. There's the Oasis Bluff Road goes off to the left-hand side, right in that southwest corner.
Yep.
For some reason, everybody that goes by there that wants to kill somebody looks at that and goes, "Hey, that's a good place to dump a body." We worked multiple body dumps there, and finally the owner of that area ended up moving in some really big limestone blocks. So you can't drive off into the woods right there to do the dump. Now there's some barrier right there. But in this particular case that I worked or was assisted working, the guy's dog that lived right down the street was running around out in the woods and went over there, and the body parts were in a bed pillow case, and he picked it up and brought it back home. And the guy was like, "What the hell are you doing with that?" And he goes over there and it's a
opens that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he opens up. He freaks out too. I
Yep.
was a freakazoid. There's some of the homicides that we've had. I mean, like the Bettis is the one that always comes back and haunts me because when you see something like that, and I was new, and that was 41 years ago, and you can almost palpitate that. Whatever you call it, you can see that. It's hard to not see it. And I like everybody else, and I can imagine her family members just beside themselves because you can't put that to rest, and that has to be just agonizing. I remember for the longest time I was told by the homicide detectives that the parents used to call all the time every year asking, years and years and years of asking until finally, I guess, if they went deceased or don't whatever. So that's sad. I wish that we could go ahead and solve that case once for all, at least put it to rest, put it to bed so they can get some peace, so Elizabeth can get some peace, because I believe that, there is no peace right now. And we've seen some of the macabre stuff too. What comes to mind to me is, that poor guy that was over there in Mansfield Dam fishing. Remember that night? He was sitting there fishing. You were on. I don't know if you were in that or not, but he's sitting there at the pier in Mansfield Dam at night, where you launch the boats, this little pier that goes out. I'm sure with the dive team, you went out there many times to do stuff. And I was over the dive team at the time. This guy's sitting there fishing with his son. They're having a great time. It's a full moon. Life is good and everything else. And just like that, as he's sitting there fishing, the body pops up right in front of him. A body pops up in front of him. And this guy picks up his kid and leaves everything and runs screaming and hollering. Of course, we get there. And of course, we ask him, hey, we'll pick up all your stuff. He says, my name is this and this is what I saw. You can keep all of that. I don't want it. And he left. It was just like, wow. In that case, we solved it. Thank God. I mean, they solved that one. Yeah. But it was, yeah. Stuff like that. And then of course the Bettis case, you run across something like that, and it was just like, again, very cold. We still don't have anything. It's kind of agonizing.
So yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you on the Oasis Bluff corner there. You had started on something and I interrupted you on that.
No, that's okay. We went ahead and actually found, I remember I assisted the detective on that one. And we found the place, the roommate, and he was the prime suspect. I don't think for some reason we just didn't have, or they didn't have enough, or the prosecutors felt they didn't have enough. And I believe that case might still be open.
He was the one that repainted or painted the mattress, right?
Yes. How did you remember that one?
Yeah. I worked part of that case.
Yeah, Halverson.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. It's just ridiculous. Okay, so let's just use a little bit of logic, right? Aristotle and Socrates and some of these other guys figured this
Edgar Allan Poe, but go ahead.
I'm sorry. They figured this stuff out a long time ago where it's like, all right, step 1, step 2, step 3, this is a logical process. There's a lady named Lizzie Borden. And everybody knows her, and there's the song. Come on. Yeah. And so she was supposed to have killed her parents.
Correct.
And basically it was like one of the most sensational cases of its time. It was in all the newspapers. It would be akin to
the OJ case, the
OJ case, the Diddy case. It was in everybody's face. Place was packed. And
Epstein.
Of course,
Epstein.
Yeah, Epstein. She was the Epstein, popularity wise. And she ends up getting away with it. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that she killed them. And there's multiple people say, oh, it wouldn't have done it. Let me ask you this. When have you ever gone anywhere and left your phone and not gone to get it again? Right? Okay.
Doesn't happen. Very rarely does that happen.
Very rarely. So it's, if that happened, I could go and look at your phone records and talk to you and go, wow, you never ever did this. You've owned a cell phone for 20 years. You've never done this except between 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock this night that your wife got killed. Okay. That's what we call in the world, in the job, circumstantial evidence. Sometimes circumstantial evidence is great, right? Sometimes if you have two people and they go into a concrete box that has only one door, they go in there and one person walks out, you look inside and that person's dead on the inside. Who killed them? You know, if they've been chopped all to pieces, who killed them? It's pretty easy. That's circumstantial evidence. That I'm gonna be able to make that case on circumstantial evidence. It's like, oh, he killed himself. Yeah, he stabbed himself 32 times with a 9-inch knife through his heart. Now, 4 or 5 times in the belly, you know, cut his neck. Okay, not 32 times in the heart, right? So I can build this case off of great circumstantial evidence. When you're looking at the Borden case, okay, she was wearing a particular dress that was supposed to have blood on it. When they went to collect the dress, she had burned it in the oven. She folded up and put it in her oven like a cake and burned it in the oven. And she said because she had gotten some paint on it and ruined it, so she burned it in the oven. Okay, she's never done that. You ask anybody in town, have you ever burned your clothes in the oven? Everybody says no. You don't burn clothes in the 1880s. You fix them. You repair them. You pass them down. You give them to poor people. You don't burn them in the oven. So this circumstantial evidence, right, that you can look at. That case, what you were just talking about, the roommate, painting the mattress. I could go anywhere in Austin and talk to any mentally stable individual and say, hey, did you ever paint your mattress? Have you ever painted your mattress? Nobody in Austin has ever painted their mattress. Now, there's probably some very creative artists or something that would step up, but just to argue with me and say, yeah, I painted my mattress, you know, then just to argue, right? But that's a big, huge red flag as far as circumstantial evidence. That told me he killed his roommate. Who else would have any motivation to kill your roommate? You look at everything, there's nobody. Have these people been fighting? Yes. Were they in a relationship? Yes. Were they in a violent relationship? Yes. But we never made the case.
It's not that we didn't make the case. I think I think we did make the case and we presented what we had, Greg. But you see, it's not up to you or me. Our job, we're fact finders. We go in there, examine everything that we possibly can based on what we have learned. Some detectives are very, very good at it, and some detectives pretty much suck. And that's just, it's in every profession. You have some really good doctors, and you have some doctors that are, they're not very good. So, but that's in anything you do. You have some good engineers, and then you have the engineers that their whole building caved in, lawsuits come. But it doesn't matter. Either way, we had enough circumstantial evidence, in my opinion, but we presented it and they didn't feel the same way we did. And if they don't feel the same, and you know who we're talking about, prosecution, you're not going anywhere. Let me give you an example. I'm working a case right now that I think I have so much circumstantial, not only circumstantial, I got hard evidence that I can pretty much impale the people that I'm fixing to go after. And I'm not done yet. And still, I'm probably going to it's going to be an uphill battle again to get this case in because, prosecution sometimes is just, I don't know, for whatever reason, they don't like circumstantial cases. But in homicides, you have to, if you take it all the way to the end, the reason why they don't do stuff is that they want to make sure that they get the case, that they have enough that they're not gonna find him innocent. And then if they find him innocent, and then years later we find more information on the case that we could have prosecuted, see, now they don't have the chance to do that because murder has no statute of limitations. No statute of limitations, which is a good thing. And probably that's probably the thing that they think about, I guess, as prosecutors. I know we'd have to bring a prosecutor on to ask them that question. That's just my best guess.
And I can throw in the cynic side of that. A lot of prosecutors don't want to prosecute something that they're going to have to work on, because if they lose the case, it's not going to help them at all.
Oh,
right.
Oh.
So they're like, yeah, we decline prosecution on that. That's going to be too hard. We know that the guy did it, but I don't want that on my record.
Pass interference, number 22, 10-yard line.
Yeah.
Well, it could be. I mean, that's a lot of speculation on our part. But again, I've had those cases. I've had another case that were, slam dunks. They're really, really good. We had a serial rapist that I helped work a long, long time ago. He was really interesting. He's in prison now. They found him guilty. His name was Ernest Perry, and he's still in the penitentiary. I check on him every year to make sure he's still tucked away safe there. We made him on DNA. But the thing I remember what we did with his case is, man, we went apartment complex to apartment complex, and it was a team effort, APDS and everybody else. And we got composites, 3 or 4 different sketches, and we put them on one leaflet. And I walked apartment. I got my people myself. We walked apartment complexes, handing them out, knocking on doors. We didn't just post it in the laundry room. I went face to face with everybody that I knew and gave them that. And guess what? It paid off. Yeah. One night, this lady's coming to her car. She was going to be the next victim. She saw this guy, ran to her apartment, called 911. Voila.
Was he the gentleman rapist?
No, he was a welder by trade. No, he wasn't a gentleman. Oh no, this guy, he's the reason why we went ahead and homicide and every other detective from that point on, I remember, they went ahead and started looking at your peeping toms, because everybody knows that a peeping tom escalates. This guy, and I've got a PowerPoint, by the way, on this. Of course, I can't because you have victims involved and everything else, but for law enforcement, yes. And I put it all together because we were going to present this to convict this guy, but he pleaded guilty to 4. I know he raped more than that. And we know we had him probably more than that. But what did it was he was a peeping tom, started as a peeping tom, went to all the way up to a door, went over there and touched this lady, and he's still in jail. But he is the poster child because he started as a peeping tom. And can you believe that one of our officers on the street took the time to do an FI card on him? And nobody bothered to look at that freaking FI card when we started.
So an FI card,
a field interrogation card.
Interrogation card. This is something that, it's so funny. You go talk to the 5 to 7 year field training officer, and they'll roll your eyes about FI cards. They're like, no, man, that is a huge. I used to do FI cards all the time. If I had any kind of reasonable suspicion, if I could talk you into this, I would say, hey, man, let me see your hands. You're good. Roll your fingers through your hair. Now put them on this piece of paper. And I would get their fingerprints right there in the field, throw it on an FI card, powder it, and send it in.
Well, now we have, now, believe it or not, because I'm still in the field, I've got, this is my county phone. And of course, I can write citations with this, and I do. And I have FI cards on this too, where you can go ahead and look at the surface of that.
Take a picture, you can do everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And they have the ability, but a lot of officers don't use FI cards. I mean, I'm saying that. It's been a while for me. I hope they're using them, because now there's no excuse for not using them. On this FI card with your phone, you can take a picture of them, which is even better. So,
yeah, no kidding.
It solves cases.
You and I've talked a little bit about this prior to, as far as when do you open up a cold case? Because to me,
I think they should. I think they should. I think. Let them,
at what point? Like 30, I'd say 30 years. I'd say 30 years, release that information, get that out there. You'll have to do some redaction on maybe some witnesses that you've talked to, or other victims or family members that you talk to. You got to do the redaction on that just to keep them safe, and maybe choose a couple of other things to do redaction on, like DNA sequencing, or fingerprint classification or whatever, but leave it out there because I've met a lot of housewives that are a lot better detectives than some of the guys that I worked with. And for what it's worth, I'm not tooting my own horn because I worked some big cases, but I never really worked a big case like Sherlock Holmes, where you're being so creative and so thoughtful and so methodical about what you do. You're building this case. Most of the stuff that I worked, it popped up. Oh, here's a fiber. Oh, here's a footprint. Oh, here's a key. Oh, here's some destroyed paper. Oh, here's an empty gas can. And I take all that stuff and make a case out of it, but nothing huge. There's some detectives that, you worked, some detectives that I've worked with that have solved big, no leads, whodunit cases, but it's really rare. And people don't realize how many unsolved cases we have, just out of Travis County in the 1980s.
But to be fair, a lot of the homicides, and any homicide detective will tell you, yeah, you do have the unsolved ones, so forth and so on. But most of the time, who did it.
Yep.
Pretty much, because homicide is that way. The people, and especially if they're close and personal. Like, when somebody strangles somebody, that's close and personal. When somebody stabs somebody, and I know that's really close and personal. This one was close and personal. He strangled that. He strangled her. And just so we're on the safe side, just so you know, I saw this and I have to show it to you. I know I'm going to show it to the camera, but I want people to remember, okay? You need to remember this face, okay? That's her. She was somebody's daughter, okay? And we need to, it would be nice to bring her home, okay? To bring her home. And, know that we solved that case or somebody solved that case. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. I read the autopsy report on her back in the day. It was a long time ago, but I read it.
Well, I'm not going to talk about that because, again, I'm not privileged to say that. Somebody's else going to have to do that because I don't want to interfere with that. And I definitely don't want to be, tell them, hey, you revealed X, Y, and Z. I just repeated pretty much why I read and what I could talk to you about in the KVUE report that they talked to the detective at TCSO, and I just went ahead and vomited that out. But there's more. That autopsy report had a lot more information. Can't talk about it, but it did.
Right.
So, maybe new eyes, and they're looking at it. I'm giving them kudos right now. I'm giving the sheriff kudos because she wants to go ahead and make sure they try to solve this case. I hope they do. I hope they now, with all the forensics and everything else, and if you can't, then you need to punt that ball to somebody that can.
And I agree. I completely understand when you have an agency that is overwhelmed with cases that, sooner or later you look at this case, you go, there's nothing I can do with it, and you put it in a file, and it goes cold. But you're right. For Sally Hernandez to bring this out, bring a couple of these others
I thought that was
out.
pretty good. That was pretty good.
Huge deal for
I think so.
The family, or just for doing the right thing.
Or who's left? Remember, she was 18. She was very, very young, and that's 40 years ago. How old was her parents then?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are they even alive? I don't know. I haven't kept up with it.
I went to a DOJ homicide investigators course in Florida, and I don't remember what year it was, 15, 20 years ago.
Wow.
And that was one of the things that came up in one of the modules that you could go to. And I went to a cold case module, and that was one of the big arguments. And in Florida, they do open them up. They do provide that information out, I think, through the medical examiner's office and somebody else. I don't know officially on what the law is on it, but I sure wish Texas would step it up and go, it's one of those things where it's like, would you rather this never go solved, or would you rather it go solved and you not be able to make the case because something goes?
I know, and that's very.
Who did it? You know who did it?
That's very noble on your part, and I agree with you up to a certain point because you really have to look at the family too. I mean, do they want their laundry out there? I know most people say, "Yeah, I want the case solved. I don't care what it takes. I could care less." But
Maybe that could be one of the caveats in the law is after 30 years you can review it and try to solve it. If you don't solve it, then it's sunset. It's like, okay, you're done. You're going to move it on. And the next step is to locate the next of kin, whoever would be involved, and go, are you okay with us releasing this information?
Something of the sort. I mean, they have to come up with something because you have to protect the people that, of course, their loved ones too. You don't want to all of a sudden have a loved one sitting there looking at something on the television set that or the social media that they went in and blasted the crime scene stuff. I mean,
yeah, no.
There's those crime scene photos. I'm telling you, I have the crime scene photos embedded, okay, in my subconscious on this case, and I would not want those crime scene photos out there. There's just no way I would allow that.
No, and I think that's something that nobody. I don't think anybody needs to look at crime scene photos, but
there are some sick people out there. So
to put the information out there, the relevant case information out there, to where these groups can, either groups or individuals could go and look. Now there's and I'm dragging you into this, and this summer you're going to be doing some of this stuff with me. Oh yeah. We're going to do some of the Adventures with Purpose stuff. Those of you who are listening, if you have not gone on to YouTube and looked at Adventures with Purpose, these guys are doing God's work out there. They are scuba divers. They go to different locations based on individual requests or just their interest, and they look at old cold cases and try to find missing people. And we're
going to the Yukon. Are we going to the Yukon?
Oh, we're working on it. I'm still working on it. They found a bunch of people, man, where law enforcement in some cases are complete jackasses, won't work with them, won't tell them anything, and then tell them you're not allowed to dive here. And they go, stop me. And they go dive, and they find the car, they find the body in the car, and they bring it up. They go, here you go, jackasses. And that's the thing that really irritates me about some law enforcement agencies, where they don't have the capability to do it, but they won't let people that are willing to go try.
Greg, you sound angry.
Oh, Lake Travis, dude. Lake Travis, man.
It will make you angry.
It will make you angry.
Oh, we have so many people. We have what, 9?
13. There's 13.
I mean, last time I was there, yeah, you got the rest. But there was some really interesting ones that we talked about. But man, I'm telling you, nothing just really. I mean, once you get involved in these things, it's just like sometimes you just really, would like to go and see a finale to put people to rest.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Hopefully that gives some people some ideas of what to think about. And those of you that are still doing cop work out there, don't rush the crime scene, man. We're always there trying to get stuff done. And, when you think you're done, sit back, contemplate for 15 minutes before you pull chalks and roll.
And also, and one more thing too, Greg, good luck to the Travis County Sheriff's Department. Hats off to you. I mean, good luck, detective. Hope you have luck on this and can solve this. And thank you, Sheriff Hernandez, for actually, going forth with this, because I saw that report, and I think it's a really, really good thing on her part to try to see if it gets solved. It's not going to be easy, but hey, where others sometimes cold cases, new eyes see it, they can go to solve it. It's not a gig against the people that did it before. They just didn't have at that time what they needed. This is a new mentality. Maybe there's new equipment. Maybe there's new everything that you can actually solve a case, which is great. That's why you have to keep on working at them.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Thanks for sharing your viewpoint on it and kind of updating me a little bit about that. I've always been kind of concerned or really interested in that case. That's today's show. If you'd like to see more, you can contact us through our website at 3gorillaspodcast.com, and you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Pocket Cast, and Player FM. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at 3gorillas@gmail.com. On behalf of Joe, I am Greg Lawson. We look forward to the next episode of debauchery.
And we do have fun, and we're going to have fun on that one.
Continue next week. We are out of it. Three Gorillas Podcast is a zombie advocacy production.